Okay, it says IR live. Okay, good morning. Hello, let's see. Shirley's here. Ellie, good to see you. Carl, Sandy, of course. Thank you for being here. Christina, V. Gates, was ist los? Nick, and Wanda. Hello, Wanda. Good to see you. Okay, I always feel like Romper Room when I do that. I don't know if you remember Romper Room. But for those of you who do, you'll get it. For those of you who don't, you won't. And that's just the way that is. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is the Center for Mindful Living, Mindful Collective meditation, Sunday morning meditation. My name is Roger. I'm here the third Sunday of every month, and I have been for many, many years, and it's been just my pleasure to do it. We have a donation link. If you're watching via YouTube, there should be a donation link there. If not, let me see if I can quickly post something here. This is all done. All of us teachers do this on a voluntary basis. This is just to support the Center for Mindful Living and the Mindful Living Collective. So yeah, there's that, it looks like. Okay. Now it says I'm Elijah Goldstein when I chat in, but I'm actually not Elijah Goldstein. Rivka, good to see you. So happy to have you here. And Nick, thank you. And Teresa, good to see you, Teresa. Hillary, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. And good morning, Joel. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that beginning tomorrow, I'm going to be starting a 4-week series on the Four Noble Truths, or as I call them, the Four Knowable Truths. And these are the basic teachings of the Dharma. And I wanted to just kind of kick things off here today just by doing a very brief talk about the first noble truth or the first knowable truth and how we can apply that to our meditation and to our daily life. Now, the first noble truth is that there is suffering. If you're going to take human birth, you are going to be subject to suffering. Now, suffering in the Dharma context does not mean extreme pain, wailing and gnashing of teeth. It doesn't mean something like that. It really just means dissatisfaction. The Pali word for suffering is dukkha, Dukkha. And in that language, which was the language of the original Buddhist texts, dukkha has several meanings. And one of them is unsatisfactoriness, a sense of dissatisfaction. There's something here that I'm not happy with right now. I want things to be different than the way they are. So that is a very simple and I think effective definition of suffering. Wanting things to be different than the way they are, not wanting this moment to be happening as it is, even though this moment is happening as it is. And when we know that we are dissatisfied, when we know that we are suffering in that way, now we have opened a little space where the suffering ceases just for a moment. We've abandoned the origins of the suffering, and that would be the second knowable truth. And the third knowable truth is that there is a cessation of suffering. When we know we are suffering, when we sense dissatisfaction, I don't like this, when there is aversion, you're pushing away against something. As Joseph Goldstein says, it's kind of like if you're driving down the road and there's something wrong with your car, it flashes on the dashboard. Well, when you notice you're dissatisfied, that flashing light should say, dukkha, 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 suffering, suffering, suffering. So this is an easy thing to begin with. And we don't want to start with the big suffering. I don't believe we should. You can if you wish. That's totally your choice. But my suggestion with all of the teachings is that we start small. We start in easy bites, and then we begin to expand it outward to the rest of our lives. So during our meditation practice, if you notice that there is dissatisfaction, if you notice that there is a sense of wanting things to be different than the way they are, I don't like the way my body feels, I don't like the temperature of the room, I don't like the sound that's going on outside my house, whatever that might be, that's just suffering. Now you can know you are suffering. And when we know we are suffering, now we have a chance to do something about it. And that is to let it go, Just go, oh, this is suffering. And as soon as you do that, there's a sense of ease. Now, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that I sum up the entire Dharma in one gesture. You open the hand. This is you wanting something to be different than the way it is. This is you opening the hand and allowing it to be. This is a relief of suffering in that moment. And so there is at least a momentary cessation. And this can happen throughout your daily life as well. When you notice even just the momentary experience of dissatisfaction, unhappiness, anger, frustration, irritation, whatever it might be. Oh, suffering. Beep, beep, beep. There's the dashboard light. All right, let's begin by making sure we are comfortable. Hello, Jita, up in Canada now. Great, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hi, Gwen. Okay, so let's begin by making sure we are comfortable. So we do want to create the conditions for comfort. We're not here to create the conditions for dukkha. Dukkha is going to arise anyway. In fact, at one point, I was going to have T-shirts made that said "Dukkha happens." Uh, well, never happened. And so, creating the conditions of comfort and ease, so that we can notice dissatisfaction more easily. We start by allowing the body to soften as much as it will, arriving here in this moment in the body. And even now, there may be some dissatisfaction, some wanting of things to be different than the way they are. And instead of looking at this as a negative, that you have done something wrong or there's a mistake, just know dukkha happens. There's nothing you can do to stop it. The mind is going to create preferences, desires, likes and dislikes. And the knowing of this experience can be your teacher. It can help you to deepen into wisdom and insight. This is what happens when we don't treat things with aversion and we open that tight, clinging fist. And letting the body soften as much as it will. And if it's comfortable for you, bringing the attention to the sensations of breathing. Breathing is always happening in the present moment. If feeling the body breathing is at all difficult or uncomfortable for you, bring your attention to the sensations in your hands or to the sounds in your world. All of these things are present moment sensory experiences. And so there will be a few minutes of silence in which we can rest in our connecting point, our anchoring point of breathing, sensations, or sounds, and we can explore these connecting points together during that silence. And as we continue, connecting to an anchoring point, such as the breath or sounds or sensations, is not some kind of magical, mystical experience. It is simply a place to dwell in which we know we are present. And of course, sooner or later, the mind, which has remained active during all of this, will create thoughts that will take us into a future or a past, or a reverie or a daydream. This is a time when many practitioners experience a little dukkha. They don't want the mind to wander. They think there's something wrong if they've drifted. They've done something wrong. They are wrong. This is a moment to notice, oh, I think that's a little bit of dukkha. And now we open that space of compassion for ourselves, kindness, wisdom, insight, simply by knowing the experiences here. And then we forgive ourselves. And as Elisha likes to say, invite ourselves back to the practice. Forgive and invite. Let it go. Open the hand. And returning back to that connecting point so that we know we are present. It's all in the knowing. It's all in the consciousness. And so we'll continue now, practicing in this way through an extended period of silence. And as we continue, when we first start noting those little moments of dissatisfaction, we may be surprised at how often they occur. This, again, does not mean there's anything wrong with you. You are only human, and this is only natural. It is the ability to know that experience through mindful awareness that allows us to escape it. When we go into it, we actually get out of it. And so we'll continue again, as best we can, anchoring our practice in the present moment through a sensory experience such as breathing, but remembering that the practice is not paying attention to breathing. The practice is knowing when you're not paying attention to breathing. That's when the practice happens, because now we know we are not present. And we can also notice what kinds of thoughts were there. Was it a preference thought? Was it a past thought, a memory, a worry about the future? It's all in the knowing. And then we can take that mindful awareness that we now have and invite it back to that connecting point. Not to strive over it, to strain to stay with it, but rather to just rest in it. Let it come and go as it will. And so we'll continue our practice together in silence. And of course, taking all the time you need in whatever way you need to transition from the practice. And for those of you who have to leave our practice this morning, thank you for being here. For those of you who are going to stay, we'll have a little chance to do a little inquiry, some question and answer perhaps, or just sharing your experience. And if you're watching on the recorded version, thank you for being here as well. So I'm curious to find out if anyone wants to share their experience this morning about encountering dissatisfaction during the practice, something that may have come up for you, a sound, a physical sensation, a thought, an emotion, a smell, a taste, some visual experience, whatever it might be, where you noticed, oh, I don't want that, right? So that's really the key element here is that we know it. So there is suffering and the knowing of it. And that's why I call these the four knowable truths, is that we have to know them. Hello, Margot. Good to see you. Yeah, hope you can return regularly to our group too. We have a daily weekday, Monday through Friday meditation at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We practice till about 8:30 to 30 minutes after the hour, and then usually we have some period of inquiry. And as I mentioned, I'll be starting a 4-week series on the Four Noble Truths starting tomorrow. If you're interested in getting the link to that, just write me at the email address you see underneath my face, and I will send you the link. Okay, it's a Zoom link. So anything anyone noticed or would like to share, feel free to just chat something in. You don't have to. You can also chat privately. At least I have that option for private chat. If it's something you don't want to share with the group or let your name be known, I'll certainly keep you confidential. Well then, how's everything going out there? How are you feeling this morning? Do you wish you felt different? And once again, I just wanted to post the Mindful Living Collective Center for Mindful Living donation information there. This is strictly voluntary. Um, oh, you like the mug? Well, it's not really a mug. It's a souvenir cup from a couple of years ago when I went to a Mets game. I couldn't find my hydro flask, so if anybody knows where I put that, I'm suffering because I don't have my hydro flask. Okay, Gwen, the thing I went to, which is what I want, coming back to kindness and compassion. Yeah, yeah, good. And there is a mantra you can also use. May this suffering deepen into wisdom and compassion. May this suffering deepen into wisdom and compassion. Because suffering always does. It's our teacher. We learn a lot from it. Christina, Dankeschön. And Shirley says suffering is noisy. Wow, like in the head or in the real world? I wonder what you mean by that, Shirley. Thank you. Mellowcraft. Can you tell us more about the chats you're doing on the Four Noble Truths, please? Sure. Well, each week for the next 4 weeks, I'll be taking one of the Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths were the first teachings that the Buddha taught after his enlightenment. And it's a foundational teaching of the Dharma. So I thought I'd start there for a series. And so this coming week, it will be the first noble truth, which is the truth of suffering. And then the week after that, it will be the second noble truth, which is the truth of the origins of suffering. Right? Okay. And then the third noble truth is the truth of the sensation, is the cessation of suffering, the ending of suffering. Okay. And the fourth noble truth is the noble eightfold path, which is something that very naturally unfolds in our lives as we engage in these practices. So both in your head, Shirley, and let me know, Mellowcraft, if that's enough for you. Uh, but so Shirley says, she said, suffering is noisy. And I asked her, was it in your head or outside? And she said, both. You know, sound is one of those places where we can really notice dissatisfaction. We have a lot of preferences about liking certain sounds, not liking certain sounds. And the definition, or one of the definitions in the First Noble Truth of suffering, is desire that gives rise to a sense of self. Desire that gives rise to a sense of self. In other words, there's an I, me, a my, or a mine involved with it. And so usually it's I don't like that sound. So if you hear that personal pronoun in your thoughts, I would say that's where the dashboard light should be flashing too, because I don't like this. Who is I? That's a sense of self that arose because of that desire. Suffering. Dukkha, cosmic dancer. Just put an H before the A, and that's the way dukkha is usually spelled, alliterated to English from the Pali. The shoulds or should not. That is resistance and suffering. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Gwen. That's very, very wise. The shoulds and should not. Those things that we want that don't want. Yes, that's correct, Sandy. Dukkha. Uh-huh. Oh, it's Monica from Oklahoma. Great. Many a month has come and gone since I wandered from my home in those Oklahoma hills where I was born. Thank you. All right. Carmichael Kahn, like the idea of forgiveness after recognizing the loss of the present. Dashboard image is useful. Appreciate you. Thank you. And the forgiveness, forgive and invite, that's Elisha. You know, that's copyright Elisha Goldstein. I just, I always like that one. You know, forgive yourself and invite yourself back. You know, it's you haven't done anything wrong. The mind just does what it does. And in fact, just as when we get to know suffering, it teaches us, so too the wandering mind brings us back to mindfulness because eventually we become aware of the wandering mind. And oh, I'm mindful again. Hey, yay. That's the point of the practice, not to keep your mind steady on some object. Thank you, Shirley. Always a pleasure. Good to hear from you. Um, all right then. So I think what was this 38 after the hour? Unless there's something else, why don't we adjourn for today? And I will be back on the third Sunday in September. September. Namaste, Sandy. Good to see you. Thank you. And so until then, it's been really, really wonderful to teach with you, to sit with you, to practice with you. And I feel really honored and privileged and grateful that you would want to spend this time with me. So thank you for being here. Stay in touch. That's where you can find me, right there. All right. Bye for now. I'm going to end the broadcast. Teachings on the Four Noble Truths available elsewhere. We do have a Facebook page for our group, but it's extremely private, and you have to be allowed to join. I will be posting my recordings of the teachings there, but other than that, right now there's nothing really in the public domain about the Four Noble Truths that I have. All right, everyone. Thank you. Good to see you all. Mwah. See you next month. Bye bye.